I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So we're following up on the ATG Audio to Go Transcend series. This is the last piece of the puzzle that we haven't shown you. This is their monoblock amplifier, and this thing's 1800 watts, okay? And we're gonna check it out with the Transcend 12-inch sub. So what we're gonna do in this video, we're gonna do an unboxing. We're gonna show you this thing. We're gonna hook it up and to a sub. We're gonna beat the crap out of it, and then we're gonna dyno it. So let's take a look at this thing. All right, looks like a monoblock amplifier. All right, so first we're gonna look at, this thing's got kind of a nice brushed anodized finish to it. Looks good. Curious, it looks like possibly this lights up along the top. Looks like it measures 14 by 7 by 2 inches tall. Pretty typical stuff. Looks like we got 0 gauge probably. These look fairly small. That looks like maybe 10 gauge, but at least there's 4 of them. Big D ain't gonna like this, but we ain't got no Tiffany style RCAs, but I don't seem to mind. All right, standard stuff here. You know, we've got, you know, variable low pass filter, obviously, and a supersonic filter. Not sure what that is. I think that means like a subsonic, either off or 50 hertz. We've got a bass boost of 0, 6, or 12 dB. I'm sure the manual says. All right, we don't normally do this, but we're gonna give you the gut shot up close and go over some of the stuff here. So they give you a pretty thorough instruction manual and some other stuff. They've got lots of different models and stuff. I believe they make a 2500, okay? So this is the amp right here. We can get no glare on it. Okay, this thing is 1800 watts at 1 ohm, 900 at 2 ohms, and 450 at 4 ohms, okay? So, comes with a bass knob. It's got the headphone jack style. It's metal. That feels all right. So, no lights or anything on it. Power clip or anything like that. And they give you some screws and some Allen wrenches, which some people don't. So, anyways, so some of you commented before on these on the audio to go stuff, the ATG. Their Transcend stuff was kind of expensive. Okay, so this amp retails for some, and for a budget 1800 watt monoblock, that may seem like a lot. Okay, so I talked to the manufacturer and I said, hey, why is your amp when we can buy amps out there all day long, 150, 200? What's the difference? And they said, well, do you want your amp to last? And said, you know, we're using better components and we're using stuff. So I want to point something out. Okay, this is crazy. Okay, what do you see? You see a lot of similarities. I mean, really, these 90% identical. Okay, and you go, well, what the hell? right? This amp is like $120. This one is 3 times more than this one, okay? And you go, well, why? Why is it 3 times more? Well, I had to do some digging and some looking and some whatevers. Again, things like, okay, you get a metal base knob versus plastic. There's a few bucks. You look at some of the things, like here's the bottom of one of them. It's just a flat piece of metal. This one is formed and shaped and whatnot. By the way, this amp is not made in China. It's actually made in the Philippines. So, you look at these things. Let's look at the similarities on these. We have basically the same input jacks, speaker jacks. They're identical, okay? The dimensions of these amps lengthwise are totally identical, except for the ATG amp actually has a whole nother rail inside that all the MOSFETs are all clamped to. They're not bolted, they're actually clamped, okay? Same amount, whatever. I didn't pull these apart to see what they're using that's different on as far as that goes. So this amp here is sold as a 1200, but the board says 1500. So, when you get ultra budget, they may not know. They're just using mix and match stuff, whatever they can get a deal on or whatever. This is probably a very universal design, but where we're talking about differences are, okay, we've got USCON capacitors here. Not sure what these little ones are. Right, they're 105C versus Chang X, 85. These are all Chang X, 80 volt, 100. These ones are 105. Okay, so really the difference is probably you're looking at probably better capacitors here versus here. Okay, these are 4700. These are 3300. Okay, and if you just look at the board, there's glue on all the components. The wire that they use in here, this is like a silicone jacketed wire. It's nice and soft. These are very stiff, rigid. There's coatings, like I said, on everything. The board's coated. I don't think it's a marine coating, but, and then you look here at like the potentiometers, okay? Look at those versus those, okay? These ones are almost all plastic. These are all metal, all the way out. No plastic. So, I think there is levels of this gear. We know that Audio To Go ATG is not an audio manufacturer. We know that, okay? These are audio companies. There's lots of audio companies out there that are not manufacturers, okay? So I get the feeling that they go to these build houses and they spec out what they want, okay? This amp, it makes its rating, it does its thing, and it's cheap, okay? It's cheap, you're going to use it like it's cheap, and if it dies, you're not going to care because it was cheap, okay? This amp, okay, I feel like they've stepped it up possibly in the construction. You're getting a better constructed amp, similar design, but there is some differences in here. I am not an amplifier engineer to tell you what exactly those distant differences are, but I'm going to tell you that the MOSFETs are probably different, and the caps obviously are different because we can see that. We can look at some of the features and some of the stuff. So we're going to strap this thing down to the dyno, and we're going to check it out, and we're going to see what it does. All right, we got the ATG Transcend TS 1800.1. As you can see, it does light up. Actually, pretty classy. So I've been running this thing for a while with the Transcend ATG TS12X2.4, and I'll tell you something. This thing's been dancing around. Barbie's been going for a hell of a ride. So we're gonna turn on our dB meter and we'll get some readings. Play some music. All right, so we are loaded 2 ohms, mono. Let's give her a rip. This thing's rated at, what is it rated at? 900 watts at 2 ohms. $974 right at around 99 amps. So let's hook this thing up to 1 ohm and see what she does. Switched up for 1 ohm. Thing's rated at 1800 watts. Let's see what it does. Looks like we got 1281 watts. All right, well, we gave this thing a whirl, and while you might think that maybe it didn't make rated power, the fact that it made rated power at 2 ohms tells, it well actually exceeded rated power at 2 ohms, tells me that the power on my dyno isn't quite enough to really run. We made some changes with some cables and put a lithium battery and stuff on it, but it's still probably not enough. We were dropping down to like 12.8, 13 volts, which is more of what you're gonna get in your car when you're pounding, unless you got like a killer charging system on the thing. So you know, the fact that it still did, you know, over 1200, almost did like 1300 watts at 1 ohm, and it rated 1600. I'm gonna give this thing a pass on that 100%. I think it's all on my setup here. Like I said, 2 ohms, it did its thing. So really my opinion on this stuff is the fact that, you know, there's some cheap stuff out there, and there's some high-end, you know, we're gonna call them legacy brands. And you know, the biggest worry that I know that you guys have out there, and the same concern that I have, and the reason why I'm testing this stuff, is the fact that, you know, you can be the guy that buys cheap stuff, and the cheap stuff's just garbage, right? And you know it's garbage, but you didn't pay anything for it. You really don't care, right? You bought it because it was cheap. But you know, if you're that guy that says, hey, you know what? I don't want cheap, okay? I want something that's gonna last. I want something that's gonna do what it says. And so, you know, in other videos, we've tested, you know, some of the cheap stuff, and it worked well, right? 100%. And, you know, you gotta be kind of leery of, well, how long is this stuff gonna last? So, you know, I think the selling point on the ATG stuff here is the fact that, you know, I think it's made with better quality stuff. You know, these things are all probably built out of similar factories, if not, you know, the same ones. And it's all really on what you spec as far as components and stuff. And we showed you the inside of these things. And, you know, while the layout was very similar, the componentry in it was not. So, you know, I think sometimes you do get what you pay for. And I know you guys are looking out there. You're like, hey, I'm willing to pay for it, but I want to get what I'm paying for. So, in my opinion on this stuff, I think there's a good likelihood that you are getting what you're paying for. The reason why, you know, this stuff cost more, I mean, that woofer was insane. I'm telling you. So when we did our other test with the lesser brand stuff, you know, that woofer was impressive, right?
So we were only able to get somewhere around 100 dBs on our decibel meter in a room. Like if this was in a car, it'd be a completely different story. I was able to hit like 117 peak, right? The other one would maybe peak at 104, 105. This thing hit 117 on similar stuff that I listened. I kind of broke them in, and unfortunately, I can't play that stuff for you guys. So, you know, while there's cheap stuff, I think there's another tier, and I'm gonna say that this stuff falls into that kind of mid-range tier. And you know, I think the difference is in the quality, and chances are you're gonna get a little bit of better performance out of it, and probably a little bit better longevity out of it. So, anyways, I hope you liked the video. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe pick up one of our channel stickers. And we'll catch you next time. We got some cool stuff coming down the pipe. So, thanks for watching.